Pizza presents STP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
Well,
I know who gets the crown this episode.
Kawhi Leonard.
As you know, Steve Dangle Podcast has partnered with Crown Royal. We're so pumped to have them on board. And every episode, since the Leafs are out and they disappointed us like disappointed parents, we did this to our parents. The Leafs do it to us.
Yes.
Since we were so disappointed by the Leafs, we've been picking other things in our lives.
Yeah, and there's just not that much hockey left.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're getting to the point where there isn't a game every night.
Yeah.
It used to be like there's several games this afternoon.
I was doing some research for the show today, and I'm like, I wonder when we talk about Canada versus Great Britain.
Oh, which
we should talk about that.
Yeah, we should.
We actually should.
I actually thought that was pretty cool. But I think the crown here, because Crown Royal has asked us to crown someone.
Yeah.
If you want to crown the Raptors, then crown them. My crown goes to Max Kellerman.
Oh, really?
Max Kellerman.
What did he say?
He was right.
Last episode,
right.
we ran the audio. Max
the
Kellerman
crown.
thinks
Kobe
that
never did that.
Kawhi's better than Kobe. He's the only person. Kawhi's the only person in history to win a Game 7 on a buzzer beater. And I know there was a Michael Jordan that won a series.
He won a 5-game series.
5-game series on a buzzer beater.
On a buzzer beater.
Didn't Lillard do that earlier this
But that was, I think it was.
No, it wasn't a buzzer beater.
No, that was, yeah.
Oh, it
No.
wasn't?
This is the first ever Game 7 buzzer beater. So you shoot the shot and it goes in and there's no time left on the
I
clock.
thought that's what Lillard did.
No.
But it was in fourth overtime or something.
Oh, that wasn't in Game 7.
No,
That
I know, it was Game 5.
Yeah, but this is the first Game
I'm
7.
saying Game
Game
7.
7.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
to win a series in Game 7. First time ever.
I can't believe that has never happened.
Never happened.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact, not only that it was the first time, it happened the way that it did.
Yeah.
That was a movie shot.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of how many baskets are there per game, between both teams, 70, 80,
Sure. Yeah.
something like
40.
that. How many of them?
Divide it in half. 40.
Yeah.
It was 90-90, so 45 each.
You mean made baskets?
Yeah, actual field goals, not free
Yes.
throws.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them bounce off the rim 4 times?
None.
None.
No.
None. Oh, I couldn't believe
It was
it.
a terrible shot, too, because the defense was amazing.
And that's
Embiid
why-
chased him down to the corner.
And that's why Max Kellerman
He's right.
needed to get the crown. So Max Kellerman, every round of applause. We made fun of Max Kellerman, but Max Kellerman was right. Kawhi is better than Kobe after just that one shot. Now, Max Kellerman doubled down on his take today. I just want you to let you know
Did he?
that he, first off, who was the other guy who was on with him? Jason Williams? It was Stephen A. Smith and Jason Williams and Max Kellerman. There's a 3-way
On the one where
on the one where Max said Kawhi.
said,
yeah.
I don't know who the middle guy was.
I'm
Anyway,
learning
they're
too
like-
many American
they're-
broadcaster
I don't
names all
remember.
at once.
They're like, where's Jason? Like he's not on the show today.
Oh, okay.
Insinuating that he's hiding, which he's not.
Yeah.
But he came out firing Max Kellerman, that is, and said that our boy Kawhi is the best player in the NBA right now. And he's like, could have been Kevin Durant. Could have been Kevin Durant. And he's like, and this changes every week, but Kevin Durant's injured, so Kawhi Leonard is the best player playing basketball right now.
I mean,
Which is not-
Giannis wasn't playing because his team won in 5.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And
Jay Williams.
Jay Williams, that's
Yes.
it. So anyway, yeah, because there's a Jason Williams in basketball, and there's a
that's
Jay
a
Williams. Yeah.
former point guard.
Yeah. Wasn't he called White Chocolate? Wasn't that the
No, I
same
don't think
Jason
so.
Williams?
Is that the same Jason Williams, the one who played for the Kings?
The Kings, yeah. They called him White
That
Chocolate
was his nickname?
because he could shimmy like nobody else. He was amazing.
Remember who you're talking about. I don't remember the nickname at all.
And then
They used to call him White Chocolate.
yeah, and then I was thinking of Mike Bibby too.
Oh,
And then Mike Bibby had that glow up from last summer where he's just jacked.
yeah.
Do you remember that?
And the best part about Mike Bibby is that he's Vancouver Canucks' only draft pick that I can remember.
Mike Bibby.
Vancouver Grizzlies, that is. Sorry,
Oh, I
Vancouver
was like-
You
Grizzlies.
said Canucks.
Not Canucks. That's what I not.
Wait a
And
minute.
I guess Steve Francis too. Stevie Franchise.
Franchise, who was very happy and lived
And
happily ever after.
played
with
so
that
many games.
franchise.
when he
Vancouver.
went to the Rockets.
Oh
Not
my
a good
god!
career.
Oh my god, that was bad. That so Ben Ennis had a tweet last night, and it's an aggressive take
Of Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
of Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Roger. And I struggled to go against it. He said
Okay.
that was a top 5 Toronto sports moment.
Yeah, and then he ranked them.
Oh, okay. I didn't see this.
Oh, you didn't see his ranking?
no,
I'll pull it
because
up.
some people were
Like ever?
Yeah,
Ever.
he says Toronto sports moments ever, and he has a top 5. And then somebody called him out because I think he forgot one, so he added it. I will pull it up in one second.
It's a tough tweet.
If the Leafs not coming back from 3 games down in the 43 finals to beat Detroit is not number 1 on that list.
Now wait though, that's interesting because it didn't say achievement. It said moment.
Yeah.
So for example,
Yeah, we're talking about one instance.
Yeah. So for
Interesting.
example, when the Jays beat the Braves to win their first World Series, how did they win? Well, they just caught a fly out.
Yeah.
So who cares? That's not
a moment. It's an achievement.
It was an out at first. No, it was a pop
Yeah,
fly.
was it
it was a pop fly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Someone caught the ball. And
the
then
fact that we
game was
don't even
over.
know, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was routine. Touch 'em all, Joe.
That was the
That's
second.
a
Yeah.
moment.
That's got to be number 1.
Yeah.
He
Every-
won the championship with a home run.
He won both World Series with that home run.
Yeah,
like,
he did.
whenever you see highlights from the Jays 92, 93, it's just Joe running the bases, and
It's
then
like
him
they went back to back, and he won both World Series with this one hit.
He went back in time. That's amazing. You're 100% right.
It's so true.
So like when the Leafs came back in 1942 in the middle of the Second
that was
World
an
War,
achievement.
It was an achievement, but was it the moment? Like
No, you're right. You're
this
right.
was
That's
unbelievable.
a good point.
So Ben Annis's list is 1 Carter, 2 Nixon.
Carter what?
Joe Carter.
Oh my God!
Like Vince
I was
Carter?
like the slam dunk competition.
This list is a no.
My God! I was like, wait.
I'm like,
It's
nah,
over,
that doesn't-
ladies and gentlemen. This list is over.
It would just be like Ben to put one in there just to rile people up.
Oh, yeah.
Like Ben's,
Thomas Caberlet wins most accurate shooter.
like Ben's smart that way. He'd get you fired up.
Nixon crappy bunt fielded by Mike Timlin.
I don't know what
The
he's talking
Otis
about.
Nixon is that where? It's Otis Nixon, right? Nixon.
I talked
Mike
about Ben
Timlin.
about this.
Ben's
Or
a huge baseball fan, so
I talked to Ben about this, like, because me and
That's-
JD Bunkus are about the same age, but Ben's a little bit older.
That's the final out of the 92 World Series.
ooh, see,
Yeah.
So
like,
he
no.
counts
Yeah,
that
no.
as a moment.
No.
And I'm like, no.
No,
That's
it's
why I
not.
was like, it was a
achievement.
ground out.
you
to first.
cannot
Oh,
you can't have
yeah,
a
that was
first
the
off,
ground out.
No bunt in baseball can be
Right.
an achievement. I'm sorry, and a moment. Nothing.
Well, they got him
no
out
bunt
from a bunt.
So what?
And it was the
they get
first
everybody out from a
World
bunt.
Series that Canada ever won.
And then the next
Joe
year,
Carter.
Joe touched the ball to bring the World
And
Series
won
back
two
to Toronto.
in one single at-bat.
They played 2 seasons and then locked it out because they were like, "Nah, man,
No.
we gotta go on vacation. We just played 2 seasons
Joe
in a
won
row."
3 World Series with one swing of the bat. Joe.
So
Yeah,
that was
okay.
his number 2.
Okay.
Number 3 is bat flip. So we've gotten to number 3, and all 3 moments are Blue Jay moments.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have won a thing.
Baseball is interesting though because baseball is calm, almost boring. Zach Greinke boring. And I don't know if you saw that, but what happened this weekend, Jesse? Can
So
you just show
Zach Greinke, they have a video on Twitter that went viral. Zach Greinke took 2 minutes and I think it was 19 seconds to throw 2 pitches.
Wait, why?
So he threw a pitch, and then in between the next pitch, it took 2 minutes and around 19-ish seconds.
Wait, I thought there was a pitch clock.
There is, but they had a couple mound visits in between there. The batter stepped out twice.
Oh, my
He stepped
God.
off the mound twice, so everything kind of got reset, and nobody's really keeping time.
You just
and
wanna
there's
die.
an overlay of the Kentucky Derby from last week next to him pitching, and the horses finish racing, and then he throws the pitch. It's the funniest thing in the world.
People are amazing, eh? Just
know, right?
amazing.
That's so good.
I wish the
It's
internet
really
was
good.
only
It's
shit like
really
that. Like this is the only shit that should make the internet. You know what I mean?
The internet was so good last night.
Oh, it was
I
great.
broke
Hang
my-
on.
Sorry.
Hang on. We're back to the thing.
Kawhi.
Sorry.
But in terms of baseball, the reason you get moments in baseball is that's all baseball is.
It's just moments.
It's boring. Wow!
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
and the NFL sort of like that.
The
too.
most intense excitement you've ever seen as a Blue Jay fan, anyway. And again, you got to remember, we're from Toronto, so if you're not from here, you don't understand how much we've lost. And you can't
true.
relate to this, but the most exciting moment or sustained period of baseball I've ever seen was the stuff leading up to the bat flip, which was an absolute unmitigated disaster for the Blue Jays, starting with Russell Martin trying to throw the ball back to the plate, it going off the batter's bat, and then this game literally, had the Jays not won that game, they would have torn that stadium apart. Like, the fans were... Oh, my God. It was like, there's going to be a riot, and this is going to to be a problem.
Remember the beer thrown at the baby?
It wasn't thrown at the baby.
It was
thrown
at the baby.
It was whipped
at the baby. At his face.
I remember the tweets like, I can't believe you people in Toronto, from people in Texas, you throw beers at babies. And I was like, no.
So
the beer was thrown, and the baby. Who brings a baby to a playoff game?
It's not.
I'm not bringing. Listen, I'm about to have a kid. Not bringing her to a playoff game.
Listen, there are a lot of people who are varying degrees of wrong.
Everybody was wrong there.
I'm going to go with the beer thrower was the most wrong.
Most wrong. Parrot, close second. Anyway, sorry, Jesse.
So
bat is number 3.
I'm at the game last night.
Oh, yeah, you were there.
That's right.
Yeah, so I was there last night. And then afterwards, I was talking on the phone with my sister because I was telling her about the moment. She was like, oh, my God, it must have been amazing. And she was with me, the Edwin wild card walk-off.
Against the Baltimore Orioles.
Against the Orioles.
When they were awful.
That was in the 10th inning, I think. He got
2016.
Yeah.
10th or 11th, and they refused to go to Zach Britton.
Yeah, that was the big controversy. Anyway, so I was telling her that pop was bigger than the Kawhi one. Because in this moment, you know something's going to happen. You know it's either you make the shot, and that's the biggest thing in the world, or he misses and you go to overtime. But the Edwin, it came out of nowhere, exactly what you were saying. It's we're all sitting there just like, okay, here's another pitch. Here's another pitch. Baseball. Here's another pitch.
There's how many pitches
all
in a game?
Of a sudden, you hear whack, and the ball is in the air, and you lose your shit.
Oh, man.
So the walk-off home run in baseball is like nothing else I know in sports.
I was there. I was never there. I was there for one.
Pretty good.
It's damn good. Like last night I couldn't believe it either.
Which was better, the walk-off or the buzzer beater? Which had more of a pop?
The walk-off was 50,000 in comparison to 20,000. It was out of nowhere, like you said.
And the horn, too.
So the buzzer beater last night was so different because when it hit front rim, there was this weird moment where like half the crowd's like, oh.
Yeah. You can hear it.
I audibly, when he runs to the corner, I'm like, okay, this is a terrible shot. Okay, we're going to overtime. I was resigned to the fact that this was going to overtime. I'm getting 5 minutes of playoff Game 7 overtime. And I was like, okay, that's going to be sick. Yeah. And then it hits front rim, and I'm like, oh, shit, it's over.
Yeah.
And then it bounced again, and then you're like, holy shit. And then it bounces again, and then it drops, and you're like, what just happened?
It's a movie.
And you start screaming.
It's a movie.
Yeah, it was such a different moment than in comparison to anything else. Because it wasn't just one final snap.
Yeah.
It wasn't Thanos getting rid of somebody. Yeah. It was like 8 different moments that felt like an eternity in one shot.
Oh.
So I don't even know how you compare the two. Because the Kawhi moment is just so much different than anything else I've ever seen.
Mrs. Dangle and I lost our minds so loudly that Charlie started barking. All he knew was that we were yelling. He's like, who is it? I'll get him.
He was watching.
Oh, yeah.
He was watching. Yeah. He's a very big basketball
fan. He was like, fly that stupid plane, you idiot. And, I love that while Kawhi's taking the shot, if you look closely enough at the picture, it's Embiid almost perfectly doing the plane pose.
Oh, yeah?
To try to block him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It's just and he closed out so fast. Like, Embiid killed it that game.
Yeah, he was great.
He played,
so good.
What was it? Like... He played almost the entire game.
He
sat for 3 minutes the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his leg's injured. And then on that play, like, he makes an amazing attempt to block the shot. Mm-hmm. And Kawhi, like, he was talking after about how he shot the ball as high as he could just to get around Embiid's shot. And then Skip Bayless, who I was watching before this, who hates Kawhi, he made the point that Kawhi's shot is always a line drive shot. Yeah. Like, Kawhi shoots it directly at the rim. And then so he changed his shot so much, something he's so unfamiliar at doing, and he still made it. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
And to your point about Embiid, go look at the picture. There's one picture in particular that's right in front of Embiid, and you see the way, because he has to jump straight across Kawhi, but stick out his hand that way. Yeah. And it, like, I can't tell what side of his ribs I'm looking at. Like just the torque on his upper body. Ah!
He did something.
It's so good.
Sorry, and he did something unfamiliar because he jumped. He took a hop and then he jumped. So he jumped off at 2 feet instead of like doing this running jump that Kawhi did when he was running to the corner.
Yeah.
So it kind of slowed him down a little, and I think that there was a like half millisecond advantage there.
Like a nothing.
And
but
it's ridiculous.
Okay, I want to read you something.
And then we got to finish Ben's list.
Yeah, we'll finish Ben's list.
right.
No, but I have to read you this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Philadelphia. Let's talk about Philadelphia as
The
a
other
city
side.
for a second, okay? Then we'll get back to the list. Philadelphia as a city. How, Jesse, you been to Philly?
Have I been to Philly? No.
You haven't been to Philly, okay?
No.
twice.
You've been there twice. I've been there a few times. Family in the area.
Oh.
How would you describe Philadelphia as its uniqueness? Right, we talk about cities that they have their characteristics.
Well, they're harsh and brash. If you are a relatively new listener, you don't know the story, but
it's so weird because the rest of Pennsylvania is relatively calm.
Yeah.
Like they're most docile, nice, kind, polite people. But you go into Philadelphia and they're like, "Yeah, we're the rest of Pennsylvania."
yeah. Pittsburgh's just like, hey, we have a park and a river.
We win championships from time to time. Things
we
are
win
good.
sometimes. I know
Yeah.
it's neat, and we say things funny. We say a lot of different things
What's
funny.
Philadelphia?
Yeah. You know how you say you? We say yins. It's not at all correct. But it's just correct enough that it's cute. That's what we do here. Philly, so I was at the draft in 2014. In this car, drove into a part of the parking lot that it wasn't supposed to be in. And security walks up to the car, and, what do you expect them to do? Sir, ma'am, you can't be here. I'm going to need you to turn around or whatever. The security guard goes, "What are you, nuts?"
Now, you've told that story before, but I love that.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Now, it's not like, imagine the guy, like he was just peeling around the parking lot doing donuts, Tokyo Drift. No, this guy's driving like
Like the speed
15
limit.
kilometers an hour. What are you, nuts? The guy's going like... I've seen remote-controlled cars go faster. What are you, nuts?
Philadelphia is the 0 to 60.
Yes.
Like really quick
Yes.
city. So NBC Sports Philadelphia, which I believe was running the game locally in Philly, said, and there was the clip of Joel Embiid with his girlfriend. He's walking down the hallway.
He's crying.
His girlfriend, he's crying.
That's sad.
It is.
Yeah.
And it says this: give us a guy who cares this much. Give us a guy who pours his heart out after a heartbreaking loss. Thank you, Joel Embiid. You will be back. And he will. He's a fantastic, young, crazy good player.
Yes.
And the first comment underneath it is, when you pour your soul into what you do and come up short, I understand the emotions. But come on, crying publicly on your opponent's and girlfriend's shoulder, that's a bit too much. Cry in the locker room or go home. The world doesn't have to witness your tears to know you care.
Cool.
That is from Seth Joyner, who is I don't know what he is. He's a dad, NFL alum, 3-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, speaker, NFL analyst.
Oh,
and
my God.
And my favorite part about this is his profile picture is a tiger. It's just a tiger.
Tiger?
Literally a tiger.
Are you sure it's not a dude with a goatee and sunglasses?
So I read that, I'm like, that is the most Philly answer I've ever seen in my entire life, and I don't even know if Seth's from Philly, but that is a Philly ass answer. And if you keep reading down, maybe if he cares this much, he'll be in better shape next season.
What?
He played for the
incredible.
Eagles. Seth played for the Eagles.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course,
There you go.
It came down to one shot, man. Like, Kawhi, just losing it after that shot finally goes in.
Love JoJo, as in Joel Embiid, but he's crying because he could have done better and got scared of the moment tonight. His shooting was abysmal, and he got out-rebounded. The rebounding was a lack of effort, and he knows it. Like, holy shit.
Kawhi was 16 for 39.
I know.
Everyone...
Hope this humbles him. I'm like, these are Philly fans. They're fans.
Wow, come on,
Anyway, yeah, it's so funny.
I get why they're mad, but...
but that's a shot that just went in. It just went in. Anyway, so back to the list. That's a little snapshot of what's happening in Philly today.
I'm looking at his tweets, and he's a ridiculous human.
Seth Joyner?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, I know who came here for the hockey stuff. But
is he NFL by Maddie?
But he might be. Of course, he's from Arizona.
Oh,
Not so.
Well.
Hey, some great people come from Arizona. You calm down. Calm down.
We're going to hear from all the Arizona fans who are very kind.
You know some
with all
of the people
gruff,
that can live there.
all the gruff we give them.
So Ben's list at 4, he puts Kawhi.
Okay.
So to recap,
Yeah, I was about to
because
say.
that was 20 minutes ago.
How many Kentucky Derbies ago was that?
We should overlay the Kentucky Derby on us trying to read this list. Joe Carter, World Series 1 bunt that they fielded is number 2.
Yeah.
Bat flip is number 3. Kawhi, number 4. Number 5, Edwin, Baltimore walk-off.
See, here's the thing. Ben is a huge baseball fan.
There-
so there's
a little
a
bit of bias.
of inherent bias there.
Yeah.
He did add the note that Borachevsky's probably belongs in there.
Borchevsky's goal?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
See, dude, Bill Burrco won the Stanley Cup in overtime.
Bob Bond won it on a broken leg.
Yeah, like
But like, there was like 8 people who lived here.
I know there were 8 people who lived here.
There are 8 people
It was
who
like
remember
the
that.
30s.
Okay, so here's the complicated part of Toronto's, because Toronto's such a huge sports place, area, region, whatever you want to call it. It's not even just city, but it's so complicated in the context of North America because I think Toronto has what is it? But out of the major sports anyway, out of the 4 major leagues, the Toronto's got I think 15 championships, and most Americans care about 2 of them.
Yeah, which
You
are
know
the
what I mean?
Jays. The
Which
Jays.
are the
Jays
Jays
ones.
back-to-back World Series.
Yeah.
The Joe
Does-
Carter won by himself.
We actually, our radio consultant who lives in L.A., today during our meeting said they were watching the game last night, and one of her girlfriends said, I didn't even know Toronto had a basketball team.
Oh my god!
We were like, oh my God.
See, that can be a non-sports fan, but it's very,
That is very funny.
very funny.
Do you understand the Raptors made the conference final like what is it 2 years ago?
And it's funny-
no one cared.
The Globe,
no one
because
cared,
it was
people
LeBron.
Still don't care
Because it was LeBron.
because it was LeBron. It's almost like the Raptors are moving on to the Eastern Conference Final for the first time.
Well, the Globe and Mail actually tweeted that they were, and people were like, "Can you hire a sports department, please?" Because they cut most of their sports people, so people
That's
are
bad.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you get what you pay for.
So
And when you pay for
it was
nothing.
2 years ago that they made the
that's
conference
brutal.
finals, and they didn't know it.
Come on, man. Bismack
Yeah.
Biyombo, the legend.
Yeah, I know. You know,
Cavs in 3, and then the Raps lost.
but what were you saying
better
about-
than people expected?
what were you saying? The difficult thing about Toronto too, in terms of sports, is that there is a gap from 1967 to 1993 where they won
Yeah.
nothing.
Literally
nothing.
But they had one other team, and that
Yeah.
was the Jays.
The Jays.
true.
Who were great in the 80s.
Yeah, but went through all the growing pains and
Expansion
then
franchise, stuff like that.
expansion franchise, and then the Raptors were an expansion franchise, but not until what was it, 95?
95.
Yeah. And they weren't even, and they were for the first, like Isaiah Thomas did such a terrible job of those first few years. Like they were not run well. And the one thing that saved them is when they traded Antoine Jameson for Vince Carter. Like that was a pivot point in the franchise.
And then it went so wrong.
So
after
wrong.
that. So very, very wrong.
But it's a thing with Toronto sports. We really did lose. Like we are one of those cities that lose. Like if you're a Boston sports fan and you just listen to that shit list. Like you're talking about moments that happen in the second round. Boston sports fans would be like, "Yeah, whatever. That's what we do every
Even the
year."
Edwin moment was a wild card.
It was a wild
game.
card game.
Oh, like it's embarrassing that's anywhere near the list.
It's terrible.
It's no, get it off. And he didn't win the series. It was a game.
yeah.
Off the list. Gone.
Yeah.
Go away. The Borchevsky thing was more impressive because it won the series. Game 7, overtime. Edwin won a game that didn't exist until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even Kawhi, for everything, it's the second round.
It is. It's
It
still
is
the second round,
But it's the single biggest basket in Toronto Raptors history.
without question.
Yes.
Without
easily.
question.
And DeMar DeRozan's like, "What the fuck, man? I made it to the third round."
Who?
I know.
I don't even know who that
it
is.
was
He won
not.
2 games in the third round too with that team.
Do you
No,
remember?
they didn't. They got swept, didn't they?
No, they didn't get swept that series. They got swept the next year in the second round.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
No,
4-2
not really.
or something.
No,
Not
it was
really.
they won. They lost in 6.
Okay.
And then LeBron.
LeBron led him into 2 games, basically.
Oh, okay.
LeBron, after they won Game 6 pretty handily in Toronto, did that phony baloney. Like, you hear these fans? You hear these fans like catering
Yeah,
to
that was-
Toronto, like how loud they were.
that was
Shut
nice
up,
of him.
LeBron! You beat us.
Whatever.
Hate you.
I don't hate
I
LeBron.
remember that.
But you know, it's funny because Adam, Do you remember, how many months ago was it? About 9, that we were on the radio talking about the Kawhi Leonard trade. And what was the mood?
Well, the mood was that
It was sad.
people were really sad about DeMar. And it was funny because when we were talking about him, like I remember listening because the day before when that trade broke, I was going to go on with you and host my first sports show. So I think it was Rob Wong and somebody else. And I'd never...
I was flying home from Scotland.
Yeah. And I was
terrified.
like... And I'm like thinking like, oh my God, like, you know...
What are you guys going to talk about?
Yeah, what the hell are we going to do? Because there's no hockey.
Yeah.
They put us on in our not good season.
2 hockey guys to talk about hockey
and I
for
crammed
3 hours.
All the cramming I was going to do, I was going to do a little bit of basketball cramming, a little bit of baseball cramming. All my cramming went into basketball. So when our baseball segment came, I was like, and Adam. And Adam. What does Adam have to say about the Blue Jays? I didn't know anything.
So I'm listening. As you're flying home, I'm listening to Rob Wong, and this is like the mid-morning show, which it was Jeff Blair's show, so we get to fill in for Jeff.
He was one of like 6 people on the continent who was awake.
Yeah. So I'm listening to this show, and I'm doing some like believe it or not, I was doing wind sprints, and that was like the one time last summer I did them. And anyway, caller after caller after caller were like, "This is horrible. This is the end of an era. They don't even care. What's Masai Ujiri doing?" And then one guy called in and he said, "I can tell that nobody who has called this radio station in the last hour actually watches basketball."
Yeah.
And he said the Raptors just traded a Cavalier for a Bentley.
Yeah.
And Rob Wall was like, whoa, I don't think DeMar DeRozan's a Cavalier, like as in like a older car. And the guy's like, well, he's pretty close. He's like, Kawhi is top 5 in offense and top 5 in defense. DeMar is top 15 in offense and 43rd in defense. He's like, you guys just wait. You don't understand. Yeah. And next spring when we're talking about this, you all are going to be on my side and you're going to forget you even made these calls. And that's stuck with me, and he's absolutely right.
It's that Cat Williams bit. Like we all thought we had a phantom in DeMar DeRozan.
I don't know what that means.
Like a phantom, and but he was actually a Chrysler 300.
The fake phantom.
The fake phantom. And the Chrysler 300 looks like a phantom until a phantom pulls up.
Yeah.
And
Right.
last night,
the Phantom pulled up.
hit the Game 7 buzzer beater,
The
man.
NBA is weird because it's like in everyone's life, but nobody really pays attention to it. And then when the playoffs roll around and like people start paying attention, like moments happen, you kind of see like the people who weren't watching all year.
Yeah.
Like when Lillard hit the shot, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Dame Lillard!" and all
Who's
that
this
stuff.
Dame
But,
Lillard?
but Dame Lillard has been on like All NBA,
Yes.
second team All NBA for the past like 3 seasons, and he's one of the best players in the league. And then you see all the people like, "Who's Dame Lillard?" It's like, no, he's a star.
No, he just
If you're
plays in
watching
Portland.
He's just in Portland.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't watch enough games to really appreciate it.
Exactly.
Right?
You know what's interesting too is that before the show, Steve and Jesse and I were talking about obviously what Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith were talking about, what Skip and Shannon were talking about, and obviously Skip Bayless is pissed because he's a Spurs fan
And it's the best.
He won't mention Kawhi by name. He's called this lucky. He's like, not a lucky thing could happen to a worse guy. Number 2 got lucky. He just calls him number 2 for shit,
Number
right?
2.
Because he's shit. Get it?
Yeah.
So
And his numbers
too.
I didn't.
yeah.
Double
I
entendre.
want to thank Skip Bayless.
But
I want to thank Skip Bayless for single-handedly convincing me to dial it back on the Bruins stuff.
really,
I don't want to be that.
no, you don't.
I don't want to be that.
You'll never get to that.
Yeah, but I'm young, Jesse.
Also,
I have time.
not enough
to grow
people-
bitter and
Dude,
angry.
not enough people
That's funny.
care about hockey for you to get to that, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it's
I
just
didn't
not.
say his level of success.
Oh, okay.
I said his level of petty and angriness.
Oh, he's mad. But I always feel like Skip's in on the joke. Like Skip's in
Yeah.
on Skip. He knows.
Probably.
You gotta think.
Every
Otherwise,
time
it'd be
I
no
watch him-
fun being him.
That's
That would be
true.
the fun in being him.
You think so?
Is the mask that is him and then real him.
I think I frighten some people because they're like, "Oh, he means that shit." I watch Skip Bayless and I don't believe a thing he says.
No.
I don't think he believes anything. He could,
No, I think
could
he
have
just-
been wearing a Raptors jersey all game.
Exactly. He doesn't
who knows?
care. Doesn't
Do
care.
you want to read? Okay, I'm just going to pull up Skip Bayless's Twitter and
It's
just read
amazing.
Oh,
something.
please do,
It's
please.
so good.
So he tweeted this 3 hours ago to tease his show.
Mm-hmm.
Next up on Undisputed, why the Warriors wouldn't have won unless Durant got hurt. Nobody made that up except for Skip Bayless. What? Exactly.
Because
And
they
now
pulled
you're like,
together
I'm
as
gonna
a team.
I'm going to turn on the TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Tell me. Yeah, Skip. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Shannon Sharp's job is so hard.
Dude.
He must walk into every debate going, well, I have the easy point.
Yeah. Well,
And then Skip talks himself into a pretzel.
because Shannon gets to be the likable one.
Yes.
And you've seen the video of the supercut of Skip Bayless arguing with Skip Bayless?
Yes, it's really good.
Whoa!
It's so good.
So when the shot happened, he said, that was the luckiest shot I've ever seen. Couldn't have happened to a worse guy.
Hilarious.
Number 2 just had the audacity to say he works on that shot every day. So he works on hitting the near side of the rim on a corner 3, having the ball bounce up and off the near side of the rim, a second time across the rim, then bounce twice off the far side before falling in? Question mark?
That's why his skin's so crusty, Skip. Too much salt.
Now, what I love about this
great.
is the Golden State Warriors have wrapped up their series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time?
6.
When was the last time the Lakers played a game, Jesse?
The Lakers?
Yeah.
When the last game of the regular season.
See, what blows
Played 82
me
games this year.
absolutely blows me away. And you know, Sportsnet and TSN and you know, obviously we don't get as much guff for it now because I think people realize this is a Toronto-based show. We are Leafs fans. We're going to start with the Leafs every time. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And Jay and Dan, I think on TSN make an effort to just start with the Leafs just to bug people now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even when the Leafs are not, they find a way to try to shoehorn the Leafs into something off the top of the show.
Also because it's smart for ratings and everyone should live with it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
continue.
but what's interesting is you talk about like Damian Lillard, like in playing in Portland, whatever, been an incredible player for a long time, and not getting any coverage. So,
But it's Portland.
the Raptors have one thing on the on the Skip and Shannon Undisputed Instagram channel right now. The Lakers have like 3 things in the last day.
Amazing.
And it's talking all they do on that show is talk about who LeBron is going to bring to Los Angeles. That is it. That's all. So you can imagine, like the shit we take is minor.
Yeah.
What those guys would take for talking about the Lakers all the time?
They're more likely to talk about Kawhi potentially becoming a Laker.
Yes.
Than they are to talk about.
No, they're
he's
more
in the
likely to
Final
talk
Four.
about Jason Kidd being assistant coach than like Lowry at all. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
Jason Kidd's name has been mentioned more times in the past day than Kyle Lowry's.
This is what I'm saying. This is what, like, in terms of the top 5 Toronto sports moments, you gotta sort of take into account moments that matter to most people.
Yeah.
And the fact is, what the Leafs did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, most people don't care about.
No.
There are Leaf fans who don't care about those things. Old Leaf fans. That is what it is, man. Like, I think Bill Burrco might make the list. And, like, might.
I don't even know that. What is that moment?
He literally scored the Stanley Cup winning goal.
You are going to piss so many people off. I know you're
Did I
kidding.
not say that?
I know you're kidding.
Stanley Cup
Are you
winning
kidding?
goal,
I don't
and it was
care.
the last goal he ever scored.
Okay.
Because that summer he got into a plane crash, and then the Tragically Hip wrote a song about it.
And the thing was,
and you've heard it 1,000
they
times.
didn't win another
Have I?
cup until they found his body 10 years later.
11.
11 years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did not win. So it was like the curse of Bill Burrco in the 50s.
I want to say it was 1951.
That's crazy.
And then they didn't win it again until 62.
That's crazy.
After they found his body.
Didn't know.
Didn't know. Didn't even know. But, like, it happened in 1951.
Yeah.
There's also a fairly popular song. I don't know. I'm not going to let you totally off the hook for not knowing that. But
I don't listen to the Tragically Hip. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't
You don't have to listen
yeah,
to
I don't
Tragically
have to
Hip.
listen to all
You've
the
heard
music.
this song, though. If you've been to a Leaf game, you've heard it.
is that the
Okay.
biggest
Yeah.
goal in Leaf history?
Yeah, probably.
It's that or the Bob Bond Game 6 winner that led to the Cup
Yeah.
in 60.
I would say that Bill Burrco goal is still bigger, just because it won the
It
cup.
won the Cup.
But Bill Burrco was just
Was it an OT goal? What did
Yes.
you say? Yeah.
Bill Burrco was like a Ron Hainsey. Like he wasn't. They called him Handsome Bill. That was it. And
Wasn't
like,
he-
And
'cause
then
he
he
was,
was
passed
young.
away?
He
Yeah.
died in a plane crash.
yeah,
Oh,
but he was not an
crazy.
all-star or anything. He was just sort of a
Yeah.
guy. He's just a guy who filled a roster spot.
He was our Huey Krupp.
Yeah, like
And
just a
for
wow.
everyone listening, going, who the hell is Huey Krupp? He
Google
scored
him.
the Stanley Cup winning goal in 1996 for the Colorado Avalanche.
And then said he was injured when he signed with Detroit, And then I think he signed a 4-year, $20 million deal with Detroit.
You agree?
And then like 2 years in, he was like super injured. And then he showed up on the ESPN channel, like ESPN, like the Ocho, like one of their backwards channels. And he was dog sledding. And they're like,
What?
and then I think the Red Wings like filed suit for saying that he was pretending to be injured.
Oh, wow.
There's a really interesting story there. I really wish that we'd been doing sports back
now
then.
I want to say he's a coach with
Bill
Germany.
Burrco, am I saying that correct?
Burrco. Yeah.
Burrco?
Burrco.
Scored the goal.
Yes.
There were 6 teams in the league. Correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Could you pass the puck forward?
Yes. And there
And it was not during a world war, but I believe it was during
Just after.
Korea.
I know very little hockey history from the original 60s
and that's
and on.
honestly
I'm sorry.
Most
It's
people
just-
are
Yeah.
like that.
what's
I
and
can look things up.
what's its relevance, right?
Yeah.
What's its relevance other than the Leafs won some cups back then? Like it really isn't. If you look at truly modern era hockey, I mean, if you're looking at, I'm not talking about like when the play style that we currently see developed, because that's only really been in the last 5 years. But I would say if you were paying attention from the first Islanders Stanley Cup, like if you know a little bit about the early 80s,
Yeah.
that first Islanders 4 cups in a row, and then Edmonton 2, and then Montreal, that one little blip, and then Edmonton 2 more. Like when that is really when the Wayne Gretzky years, the end of the Guy Lafleur, Marcel Dion, those guys, I think that's really what you need to know to get a good understanding of today's game.
A child born the day Bill Burrco scored that goal became a legal adult roughly around the same date as the moon landing in 1969. So, dude, it was a very, very long time ago. Like, and Borshevsky, dude, again, it was a semifinal.
Yeah, I actually was at a game. I think it was actually the last playoff game where Caprice and I went, where they present a jersey to everybody. Like, they present a jersey to the military every game. And it's always interesting to see which alumni they brought out. And earlier this year, I think I was there for, was it Ron Ellis or anyway, it was one of the, I think I mentioned it on the show, but it was an older Leaf. His son or his grandson had gone to the Army, and he was the one that presented the jersey, and they're both crying, and I started crying. It was absolutely
yeah, you did
beautiful.
tell the
So
story.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then at the playoff game, against Boston, it was Nikolai Borchevsky. And I'm like, they're trying to bring that Borchevsky luck back in. And he is still this big. That was the thing about him. He's this tiny little Russian guy in an era when they were all big hulking guys, right? And he managed to score. But that's about it.
Just here right now.
I'm very interested. I would love to listen to a podcast.
You're not very interested. You're up here interested.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's different. We talked about the tone.
yeah. I'm like, this is neat stuff.
It's tidbit. That's
It's not
tidbit
like
interest.
It's not like crucial information.
Now, some people. Wow. Some people are probably screaming that Borchevsky's OT winner is the exact same as the Kawhi buzzer beater. Well, okay, because was it in round 2, the Borchevsky thing?
Round one against
Oh, it's
Detroit.
round 1? Oh, okay, so it loses
And Detroit was really good.
Because then it was the Blues.
Yep.
In that other series they were supposed to lose.
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay, what is the difference between a Game 7 OT winner and what Kawhi did last night? Because the Raptors didn't have to win that way.
It's the best shot in the franchise's history.
Yes.
It means a little more.
So we're moving the goalpost, though, a little bit. Because the Raptors haven't done anything.
No, but everything's in context of the history.
Yeah.
Like, bat flip doesn't matter if everything around bat flip happens, right? It's
Yeah.
context.
Bat flip doesn't make the Yankees top 25.
And bat flip doesn't
Sure.
matter as much either if the Jays had gone to the playoffs since they'd won the World Series, like
Exactly.
20
Yeah.
years before.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It'd been 22 years since they'd even been to the playoffs.
Playoffs.
Ridiculous. Should we talk about the playoffs, by the way?
I mean, we could.
Here's the
We
thing.
could- I watched that
been, what,
shot
2
at
games?
least, I'm not exaggerating, 200 times this morning.
That's crazy.
It's all I want to watch and talk about. But
We
it's
should.
okay. I understand there's 2 NHL playoff series going on right now.
Yeah.
But
Do you guys want to do your, before we end it, do you want to do your top 5?
Oh, by the way, I should mention that Max Kellerman. Just want to throw this out there. So we want to thank Crown Royal as our sponsor.
Oh, right.
If you're watching Tip Off or Puck Drop, why not enjoy a Crown Royal? I should have put that earlier in the show. That was a
Yeah.
mistake. That's a
That's okay.
mistake. That's all right. Max still gets the crown.
Do you guys want to do your quick top 5?
Top 5 sports moments?
Toronto sports moments?
Oh, God.
Ooh, Jesus.
That's so tough. Okay, Joe Carter's number 1. That's just too easy. Kawhi, honest to God, might be number 2.
Do you want to do your top 5 personal sports moments?
I can do personal. Personal's better.
It's totally
let's,
different.
Yeah, let's change that. That would be more fun.
Personal.
The Adam Wilde and Steve Dangle personal top 5. My Sports moments.
Okay. All right. So number one for me, Gary Roberts, triple overtime against the Ottawa Senators in the playoffs. I was there.
Were you there?
I was there.
I want to say
11:51 p.m. He scored that.
Wow.
I'm surprised it was before midnight.
It was nuts, and I again huge pop. And then, should I keep going, or do you want to go with number one?
Do your top 5. Yeah. And Steve.
Okay, I'm going on the fly here. Yeah. Number 2 would have to be Troy Tulowitzki hitting a home run, and I believe it was the ALDS. That first year they got Troy Tulowitzki, and I paid. Steve made fun of me for this, and then went and did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
I bought Andrew Walker's baseball tickets. Remember, for $600, and went, and Tulo like massacred them all, like massacred. Number 3 was seeing a walk-off grand slam. That was Raul Mondesi, and I might have been 12 years old.
I remember that.
And that wasn't a playoff game. It was just a game, but it was a walk-off grand slam.
Yeah.
Number 4.
How often do you get to see that?
The Mitch Marner block this playoff series. This spring.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
was there for that.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then the last one, and maybe this is better, but this is a moment, but it isn't a Leafs scored moment. So back when the Leafs first signed Curtis Joseph in like 98-99, they played the Pittsburgh Penguins in the second round. And this was, remember, they were not supposed to get through Philadelphia in the first round, and they did somehow. They scored less goals than the Flyers did in that series, and they still won, which is crazy. They're winning every game 2-1. And the Flyers beat them once 3-0 or something. So it was a crazy stat. Anyway, they move on to the second round, and I'm there with my mom, and Sylvain Cote, who is, again, like a Bill Burrco, like he's just a guy who played once.
He was there.
And he throws the puck at the net. It goes through Tom Barrasso's legs. Score. Oh, my God. And the Leafs end up, they're up 3-1. And towards the end of the game, and this is when Jaromir Jagr was peak Jaromir Jagr. He was the best player in the league. He was also kind of an asshole. People forget that he was a total jerk in the 90s. And he got a penalty for something. And he got into the penalty box and slammed the door shut. And the whole arena just erupted and then started singing, na 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 na, hey, hey, goodbye, like right at him. Yeah. That was my 5th best sports moment that I've been to. It was amazing.
That's a good list.
Amazing.
I've seen some really, really good ones very recently. Well, is this like I had to be there?
Are we doing you had to be there?
You didn't have to be there, but I just did that.
TV moments too? Yeah.
You can do TV moments. Of course.
Bat flip was outrageous.
Yeah.
Because I
left out Kawhi because I was going with stuff that I went to, but like Kawhi would be probably number 1 for me.
It can't
be anything Leafs, that's for sure.
It's in the conversation. Bat flip was ridiculous because for some reason I was doing something that day that was gonna make us like 45 minutes late for opening pitch.
Okay.
So me, Mrs. Dangle, and like a big bunch of my friends watched it on delay, and we fast forwarded through all the commercials and everything, and we caught up for like the end of the 6th.
Oh, wow.
So we caught up right for everything. Russell Martin throwing the ball at the bat by accident. Odor crossing the bag. 4 errors.
Oh, my God.
Flip. That, to me, so I every now and then will rewatch the 7th inning.
It's fun to watch it, yeah. Full thing's on
crazy.
YouTube. You can just watch it back.
It's the drama in that is crazy.
How did they have 4 errors?
I know.
4!
If there was a Canadian version of 30 for 30, because Americans would never do a 30 for 30 on that, it'd be great to get like an oral history of that.
Well, you were saying Sportsnet did one, right?
Yeah, Sportsnet did a documentary that aired, I think, the year prior. Or the year after.
Sorry, the year after.
Year after, sorry.
Prior to the season.
The year before would be incredible.
Yeah. Before it happened, it aired.
They were prescient.
The year after, and then it's not available anywhere though. But I know they've made a documentary. It's in the system at Sportsnet. And it's aired on TV, but I don't think it's online. Or
I want to watch that so bad.
Yeah.
They could
Stephen
just take
Brunt
that.
Narrates it and that whole thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
They could just take that stuff and post it and make millions of dollars. Why wouldn't they just throw it on YouTube, for God's sakes? Anyway. Why do that?
The Bozak OT winner was the only Leafs OT winner I've ever seen live, so that was pretty cool. I want to say what was almost a better moment than that, though. So I saw the Marner block this year, but there was an even better save in Game 3 the year before. Freddie Anderson with the paddle on David Pastrnak, because it was several pops. there was the initial pop of, oh my God, they didn't score, but so many people thought he just missed the net.
Right.
Then they show it up on the big screen, and everyone lost their mind. It was louder than the initial pop because we actually saw what happened. So there was that, but again, that wasn't what caused them to win the game. Bat flip was up there for me. Kawhi is up there for me. The Edwin one, again, it's a wild card game. It just doesn't make the list. You know what Leaf goal meant so much to me as a kid was Sundin scoring the game one.
Was that the slap shot winner against Ottawa?
The slap shot just over the blue line with that
Patrick
fake.
Lalime had a bad series.
He had a horrible series, but that was the year that the Sens were supposed to steamroll the Leafs, wasn't it? That was the year, I think the Leafs and Sens played 8 times. The Sens won 7 of them. And the Leafs swept them.
It's like 3 out of 4 years in a row the Leafs beat the Sens, right?
Yeah, something like that.
The early 2000s there?
Was it 99, 2000?
No, it wasn't
1 and 2?
Oh, 99. No, it was 2000.
Maybe it was 4.
And then 2 and 3.
Yeah,
right?
it was. Yeah, it was like 3. It was 3 out of 4 years, I think, something like that.
Anyways, those are a fun bunch of years.
Great.
Yeah,
They were good years. Good years. Where are we at now with you? What number?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not doing a
Let's do
top
shit.
5. It'll take me too long.
Okay, yeah, we have to count and everything.
Yeah, it'll
All right,
take
so
way
let's.
too long.
What's the interesting thing with the NHL playoffs is in the NBA, the first 2 rounds are kind of like, yeah, that's what we thought. In the NHL, it has been exactly the opposite of what we thought until now.
Now I look at the 4 teams remaining and I go, yeah, you belong.
Well, you belong, but what I mean is what's happened thus far in the series, both series, is the Sharks have been good. What a surprise! Oh, the Bruins have been good. What a surprise! Like, I mean,
well, there's been a lot more pushback from the Blues than the Hurricanes.
Yeah, okay.
Boy, that series doesn't feel close at all, does it?
But I don't know. Like I said last episode, the Boston Bruins are for sure going to the Cup Finals. I think they're going to win.
I got bit for going against the Hurricanes in the last round. I think the Magic's gone, guys. The Bruins look too dominant.
After what you saw from Mrazek last game, especially that first goal,
they got to go to Mac.
You go to Mac, right?
You got to go to Mac. Yeah,
because Mrazek is a real up and downer, right? He is the kind of goalie that's like he's either lethal or he is lethal to your team.
Well, and he's coming off an injury. Like he injured himself, missed a few games, and they had Mac.
So tell me this, and this goes back. This is your theory. If Mrazek's at 70%. Is his 70% better than what Curtis McIlhenny's done?
90.
That's the question, yeah.
Even 90?
Even 90. Like, one wasn't that much better than the other all season. And Mrazek just sort of had a hot second half, and he allowed 6 goals on, I think, 25 shots. And you could argue, well, the Hurricanes didn't, their defense wasn't that great. Man, the first one especially, when the Hurricanes were, I think, out shooting the Bruins, and then the Bruins went on this tear, that can't go in. I think both Grizzly goals can't go in.
Yep.
Yeah, but now, see, we had the conversation last game about should they or shouldn't they go to McIlhenny. Now there's the argument of, well, we're going home. Will Mrazek be better on home ice? Well, if he's not, now you're down 3-0, and you're going to go to Mac, and it's going to be too late. So, dude, it's not Mrazek losing his job. All year long, you were flipping through goalies. Put Mac in. Mac was the starter for a bit.
Yeah.
He was great for you in the 2 games that he had to play against the Islanders, or maybe it was 3. Yeah, it was 3, because he came in relief. He was great for you. Put him in. You really have nothing to lose other than the series.
If this is November or January or like March and Mrazek had 2 bad games in a row where he looked pretty bad, you throw in McIlhenny.
You call up Scott Darling.
So what's the difference?
Yeah. It's got to be Mac.
Yeah.
It's got to be Mac for game 3.
Now, Brad Marchand was at his Brad Marchand best. That hook to the neck of Justin Williams. Or I don't even know if that was I wouldn't even call it a hook. It was sort of like a nice little graze. He just kind of left it there.
In the regular season, most players get called for high sticking for that hit. Because he comes in with a stick this high. And he basically hits the guy in the head.
Now,
but Justin Williams... No. Brad Marchand was absolutely right.
He was.
That is the kind of line walking that I think is acceptable. He didn't blast the guy in the face with a stick or shank him. Then that becomes a different conversation. But he goaded Williams Williams tugs on his helmet, which is obviously crossing the line. Marchand laughs at him and skates away. And Williams
and does
goes
the
to
little
the
C.
box. And he does that, yeah. And that was the second goal that game. I think 2 of the first 4 goals Williams was in the box for. That's not being a great captain. And Brad Marchand has been in the league since, I want to say, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the league starting the 2010-11 season. He was a rookie when they won the Cup. I know he's done cowardly things, but he's not afraid of you.
No.
So this whole grabbing his helmet and threatening him with the idea of violence, dude, he's been in the NHL for almost a decade. Do it or don't. Williams would have been better served just cold cocking him, but he didn't.
He might have just got a roughing for that.
Yeah, it's the playoffs. If he had literally just falcon punched him in the face, 2 minutes. I mean, he should have done it to the back of the head. That way, he guarantees he won't get suspended. But what are you threatening Brad Marchand? Ooh, what are you doing? He's seen that 1,000 times. He invites it. Do the thing or don't. That was from a veteran. That was a surprising.
It's interesting that no one does the thing with him, though. Like, when was the last time that anybody fought Brad Marchand, or even in a scrum punched him in the face?
Subban's the last I can think of.
Like no one
I know
even.
There's been others.
No, like even in a scrum, and the Leafs too.
Yeah.
Nobody in a scrum will just cold cock him in the face, just dirty. And that's
or even a face wash.
Like Zdeno Chara does that. If face wash, anything, and because you see glove punches all the time, and I'm not saying that. Well, I want people to start punching each other in the head. I don't, but those things do happen in the game, and I'm surprised that nobody has ever gone like, you know what, fuck this guy.
He would have been so much better served the second Marchand comes in with that stick high, gloves off, grab him, fill him, and you get 5 minutes for that.
Yeah.
You get 5 minutes for that and a talking to. And also the world of high fives from Rod Brindamore.
Yeah, really. Exactly.
And maybe Marchand goes off, gets stitches, that's his 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't understand the whole boogeyman tactic. I'm not condoning blindsiding a guy.
No, but I think it exists as long as teams allow it to exist, and it's not on Brad's plan that. As I said, and this is what I meant by exploiting the gray areas. Brad Marchand is a fucking master at it.
Oh,
he's a master. Don't fight me on that.
Yeah, stepping on someone's stick and breaking it, punching someone in the back of the head. No, that's not still. Those are blatant things.
And he's exploiting it. And he's exploiting it. And he's getting away with it.
It's not an art when they just stare at the thing.
That is an art.
And don't call it.
No one else could get away with that.
What he did against Williams was artful.
Dude,
I would think.
You don't think that him stepping on that stick was art? I think there's an art to that, and I know that it isn't a pretty.
More than the punch to the back of the head.
Okay, fine.
The punch to the back of the head was him just, the ref's not looking, bang, and then it's on camera and no one gave a shit.
Pests all time, Brad Marchand is by far number one. Pests. Just a pest.
I think Kadri could be about the same pest, but he's just not tolerated as much. They just don't tolerate his nonsense.
He's also far more blatant about it.
That too.
Brad Marchand knows when they're looking and knows when they're not.
Yeah, I'm coming around. You're right.
Nazem Kadri gets angry. Brad Marchand just continues to. Here's a little butt into the stick here. Here's a little punch there. I've said it forever. If he was a Leaf, we would love him.
But here's the thing about Marchand. It's not just the artistry. He loves it.
Oh yeah.
The term "a pig in shit" has never applied more. He loves the shit. He's an absolute pig in shit in these situations. He smiles. He's loving it. He's having a good time. So if you're Justin Williams, don't threaten him with exactly what he was going for. Either do nothing, and if you're incapable of doing nothing, fill him. Fill him. None of this helmet grabbing shit. Fill him or don't. Those are your two options. What you did was stupid.
Fill him like Steve fills a diaper.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? Boy, did I learn my lesson. Boy, did I learn my lesson from a couple episodes ago. Because, every time I go on Twitter now, just to check, just real brief.
Nah, but brief. You
my mentions are just haha Bruins.
Yeah.
Just haha Bruins, Bruins.
At that point, that's sort of funny.
Exactly. What did I expect, Jesse? That was the lesson I learned. So,
did you expect Twitter to be nice to you?
I don't know what I expected. I wasn't thinking rationally. I haven't had a good week. But I definitely wasn't thinking rationally, and a couple episodes ago was not one of my best. But also, what the hell did I expect?
It was highly entertaining, at least.
I'm sure it was.
I think Bruins fans, despite their protestations, actually kind of liked it.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Because they got to come at you. It was
What,
good.
do you think they had their feelings hurt?
And you know what?
Their hockey team's still in it. They're fine.
winning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how could you hate it?
They're 6 wins shy of a cup. They're fine. I don't think I hurt their feelings.
No.
So, again, what's the lesson to be taken there?
With San Jose and St. Louis, I mean, it's still very, very early in the series. And I was going to say, and I know that maybe the last game didn't show it as much, but one guy that's kind of blown me away in the playoffs is Patrick Maroon. And he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the series, or at the season.
You said him.
I say him because there is an element to his game. You look at a team like the Leafs, and the Leafs apparently made a push for him last year, but it wasn't much more than what he got offered in St. Louis, and the chance to play with his kid in the neighborhood is obviously very appealing. What's interesting about Pat Maroon is there's a physical element to his game.
And he's just huge.
And he's huge.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, some team that was out early, and I think Nashville's probably the team to do this because they need some scoring too, is going to come in and go, we'll pay you a lot of money now. Like, he should have got his big contract last year. He didn't get it, but I think that's because people were like, you played with McDavid. We're not really sure if you're real. And
man, he'd look good on Edmonton.
he would, but they can't. They have no money.
Yep.
I think that a guy like Pat Maroon is going to get big money because they're, like it or not, and this is the thing we've been complaining about all offseason as Leaf fans, and if you're a team that's still in, you already know this, but whatever. They're two different games. You have to prepare for both, and that's what makes it difficult. Especially if you're, like, the Leafs have to prepare as if they're going to play the Boston Bruins again next year. They have to. And even if they don't, it's still a different game, and they still have to be ready for that.
Well, and, like, there's nothing wrong with, you can go out and get a guy like Jake Muzzin, to me, was the perfect pickup.
Yeah, exactly.
Possession driver and asshole.
Yes. Yeah. Travis Dermott, fully healthy, would be great in the playoffs because he's a total asshole.
He is, and we just don't get to see it enough. And there was another completely unpenalized hit, by the way, the one that hurt him.
Yeah.
On I think it was Wednesdays or Tuesdays, 31 Thoughts, Jeff Merrick brought up Patrick Maroon, and he said there are 82 game players, and then there are 16 game players.
Yeah.
He said Patrick Maroon is a 16 game player.
Yes.
He might not be there for the 82 of the regular season, but in the playoffs, like what he did with Edmonton, he's going to show up, and he's going to be that guy who gets the playoff goals and is there as the playoff player.
Joel Ward.
So
I was just about to say Joel Ward.
Joel Ward. He even used him as an example.
And Justin Williams a little bit too. Like, I mean, Justin Williams was a 50-point guy, 60-point guy, wasn't he? He's a great player.
Look at his Hockey DB page. Pretty ho-hum, man.
Really?
I think he passed 60 points twice. Maybe?
But it's what he did in the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a
you're right.
performer.
You're right.
Yeah.
So he 57 points once, 53, 51, 52, 59.
Did he ever pass 60?
Once. 67 with the 06-07 Hurricanes.
Oh, my God.
So a long time ago.
Yeah.
Fresh
long
off a
time
Stanley
ago.
Cup win.
It's just the nature of the NHL. Well, I guess hockey, where it's just different in the playoffs.
Well, what's unbelievable, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jesse.
No,
hang on to
go
that
ahead.
point. So Justin Williams in 1,244 games has 786 points. In 153 playoff games, he has 101 points.
Wow. There you go.
So that
the
supports
proof is
that.
right there. Yeah.
And I think you got to find those guys.
Different guys succeed in the playoffs.
A guy we'd love to see in the playoffs is whatever Tkachuk brother is in Ottawa, and I know it's going to be a while before we see him. Brady. That guy will be excellent in the playoffs if they can ever get there.
That was part of what was so weird about Calgary. I was just like, oh, yeah, Matthew Tkachuk, monster, for sure. No one.
Disappeared.
Not a person.
Well, the whole team disappeared. I don't know what the hell happened.
That's still to me way weirder than the Tampa one.
Can we talk about, at some point, we got to get some. What we haven't had in this the entirety of this show is somebody from Calgary who's not like they're
A homer?
Yeah, like the reporters out west. Like we still have to have Mark Spector on.
Yes.
We still haven't done that.
For the Oilers.
But like, who covers Calgary that you're like, that person really, really knows the team? And who could we have on? Like, like the way CJ knows the Leafs.
No one.
no one.
There's no one.
Like, you know what I mean?
No,
There are, the way that Brett Wallace knows the Sens, John Liu knows Montreal. You know what I mean? Like, there are people in each of these, like Cyril Orlesky knows Winnipeg pretty well.
Is Jermaine Franklin still out?
I think
out
he
there?
is, yeah.
We could commiserate over Junior Hockey Magazine stories.
There you go. I don't know. I'd love to know, and I'd love to get a real in-depth look at what the hell happened in Calgary these last 2 years. Because if you remember, last year, too, before they made the Dougie Hamilton trade, they didn't make the playoffs. And they talked about how there were some character issues in the room. And they pinned a lot of that on Dougie Hamilton. But now you have to think, well, it was more than Dougie Hamilton. And I don't know why. But Carolina's talking about trading Dougie Hamilton. What is it with Dougie
And
Hamilton?
Michael Furlan. Remember that?
Well, yeah, because
Remember
he's
all
an
that?
unrestricted free agent. Hamilton's not.
Yeah, at
There's
least
still
that, I
talk.
guess.
Now, people are saying that Hamilton. There are some that say Hamilton's having a good playoff, some that saying he's not. But all the same, that guy, to me, he's way too talented to give up after 1 year. No?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand anything coming out of Carolina.
Okay.
In terms of news, all I know is that their team is fun to watch when they don't stink. Which, my goodness, and like they're not. I wouldn't say they're getting bullied by the Bruins. The Hurricanes have been like a underrated physical team in these playoffs. They're just getting outmatched, and
Right.
also the goaltending wasn't that good. So, here's an interesting little conversation. Out of the 4 teams, if they win the Cup, and we obviously don't know what's going to happen between now and the Cup getting awarded, but who are the front runners for the Conn Smythe right now? So for the Bruins, I have Rask, and it just might be Marchand. Watch me die inside. Who the hell do you give it to for the Hurricanes?
I think Justin Williams.
I don't even know who their top scorer is right now.
Well, I mean,
And they've had to go to so many guys. Many guys have gotten hurt.
I think you give it to the leader on the team in that case.
Justin Williams?
Yeah, I think it's
also,
Justin
he's
Williams.
won it before.
Yep.
Here, Jesse's looking that up right now. The Sharks, easily Logan Couture. I'd say, like, if you go around the league and you do a league front runner for Conn Smythe, it's Logan Couture. I can't believe how good he is. He's got like 11 goals.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Or something like that. He's unbelievable. And for the Blues, maybe Binnington?
So,
Or Petro?
can you just
Yes.
hold on?
Hold the phone.
Everything.
And I looked up the playoff stats on NHL.com.
And?
Okay, never mind. I think they did by last 10 days. Why is it set
Last
up
10
like this?
days.
By default, it goes to last 10 days. It's so stupid.
It's a genuinely terrible website. it's
Logan Couture leads the NHL in playoff points. Then Brent Burns, Brad Marchand, Tomas Hertl, then Rantanen, who's out, Timo Meier, Erik Karlsson. So there's like just tons of Sharks up there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and they've also played the most games.
Right.
But even if you go to points per game, I think it's a lot of Sharks. Last time I checked, Matthews was still 10th in points per game.
Yeah, goals, he's 11th. And
Matthews?
Matthews.
my
That's
God.
amazing.
That's just with everybody's games played. Matthews sits 11th in goals, which is fun.
Just kill me.
Mark Stone, also 6th in goals. 'Cause he had 6 and 7.
You want to talk about one of the best series ever in a losing cause? Poor guy. He got to feast on bad Martin Jones, and now it's good Martin Jones. Martin Jones has been a god since I called him out on the Dang It's
I know.
video.
I know.
The Sharks were down 3-1 in that series. The Sharks were going to Aaron Dell, who you just learned is the Sharks' backup goalie.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. What are you looking at there, Jesse?
I was just looking at Martin Jones's numbers. What do you guys make of a goalie who has an 896 during the regular season and then a 909 during the playoffs?
I'd say the
Man.
best goalie 1983 has to offer.
And the fact that the fact that he started the playoffs so badly too. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't his like an 877 at one point or something.
The first 2 games,
It was
he
bad.
was complete garbage.
The Sharks' goaltending situation was so dire because they're like, okay, you're trash. We're taking you out. And Aaron Dell has to literally he doesn't even have to break stride. He just has to walk over the bar that Martin Jones set for him, and he still tripped over it.
Yeah.
And Martin Jones went and elevated that damn thing And now a save percentage at least starts with a 9.
Yeah. At least you show up. Just show up when it matters, I guess. That's all. That's all that matters.
Well,
right?
and one thing that they're proven against the Blues, because again, the Blues have much more pushback so far than the Hurricanes have. I always look at the Blues and I go, okay, they're not a superstar-studded team, and their stars aren't even playing that well. Tarasenko's only got 1 even-strength goal. Brutal.
That's a stat?
It's awful. Yeah, he's had a terrible playoff. I can't believe
he's had an up and down last couple of years,
the whole
hasn't he?
season. Remember they were talking about trading him?
Yeah. I hope they do. To the Leafs. Matthews and Tarasenko.
After these playoffs, I don't know.
People liked your Ekblad suggestion last episode, by the way.
They did?
Yeah.
Whoa. People liked anything that I said? Interesting.
Adam, stop thinking everyone hates you.
Yeah.
We love you. And you're big bum.
Thanks, guys.
Love you.
I know you guys do. I always feel the love from you guys.
And your extra wide jeans.
Just stay off bread.
Frozen. Frozen is about Adam's bum. Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, the Blues I consider to be a deep team. The Sharks are an arsenal. Mm-hmm. They're just unbelievable, and I love that they are what the Leafs have been painted as. They're just going to score their way to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, well, that's what, on paper, at the beginning of the year, you looked at the Sharks and you're like, this is the golden state of the NHL. Mm-hmm.
It's the Stanley Cup favorite.
Top down on defense, on offense, and Martin Jones can just stand there and you'll be good. Yeah. And then it never panned out that way until midway through when they started going a mini run. And
they were never really bad,
but they weren't Tampa.
No,
and that's what they were supposed to be.
Right.
And then now they're showing up.
And then Karlsson missed a month and a half.
Yeah, and then he couldn't turn right.
It's still not great.
And he's still not great.
He can't. Oh, man. You see him get turnstiled sometimes, and you're like, whoa.
When you see him with the puck, Karlsson with the puck is still one of the best players, if not the best players, or best defenders, anyway, in the league. Watching him without the puck in his own zone is a struggle.
At this point, you just pair him with somebody who can cover him on defense, I think.
This is the problem. Sometimes he's out there with Brent Burns, who's even worse.
Yeah, like if I'm...
what team plays move the puck so well.
A team would be a good fit for him if, assuming they keep Torts, is Columbus. Because first off, they get the money. Second, that's a defense-first team. So he'd have the coverage to do crazy Erik Karlsson shit there. And he's like a quarterback who plays hockey. Like,
oh my God.
He would help them with their goal scoring issue.
They'd have
Karlsson to Duchesne again.
There's no way Columbus could do that because they'd have oh my God. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But they would have a right side, I think, of Karlsson, Jones, Savard.
That'd be pretty good.
With Werenski as one of the bums on the left.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Stupid.
You know what's another highlight to watch every now and again?
What?
The Erik Karlsson pass to Mike Hoffman.
Oh.
Where he goes, is the Hail Mary just tape to tape.
Only we'd known in that moment what would happen.
It was like a Hail Mary Doug Flutie pass, and then Hoffman does the Forsberg, and that's the second most impressive part of the whole play.
Yeah.
And if only we knew.
If only we
knew. Supposedly the shenanigans started very shortly after.
I want you guys to be crazy athletes for a second. Put yourself in the crazy athlete category brain set, okay?
All right.
You just underwent successful right hip resurfacing surgery.
That sounds egregiously terrible.
There's no chance.
Resurfaced your right hip.
They took a grinder to your hip. So hold on.
I don't want to hear this.
I hate this. I hate this a lot, and I want it to stop. Right
okay,
now.
let me write. I'm just Googling it.
No, let me leave the room. How about
in a hip resurfacing, the head of the hip is not removed, but is instead trimmed and capped with a smooth metal covering. The damaged bone and cartilage within the socket is removed and replaced with a metal shell, just as a traditional hip replacement.
Why?
So, in a traditional hip replacement, the head of the thigh bone and the damaged socket are both removed and replaced with metal and plastic and ceramic components.
Why are you still talking?
In a hip resurfacing, the femoral head, so the head of the femur, is not removed, but is instead trimmed and capped.
Holy shit.
Now,
so who had this and what happened?
Who is still playing with this?
So here's an interesting part about the advantages of hip resurfacing. They're easier to revise, as in if you need to go back in. Decreased risk of hip dislocation.
Revise? Like Mr. Potato Head?
And get this.
Oh my God.
I have a lump in my throat.
And get this. A more a more normal walking pattern. So you're not even walking normally. Now, the disadvantages are a femoral neck fracture. Small percentage of hip resurfacing patients will eventually break the thigh bone at the femoral neck. If this occurs, it's usually necessary to convert the hip into a traditional hip replacement.
Your femur is your biggest bone.
And there's the metal
for some people.
And there's the metal ion risk in a hip resurfacing. The metal ball moves within a metal socket. No. Over time, the friction between the two metal surfaces can lead to the release of tiny metal molecules called ions. The ions can cause a reaction in the bone and soft tissue surrounding the joint called an adverse local tissue reaction. This can cause pain and swelling and may lead to the revision of the surgery, so going back in and doing it all over again. They also may enter the bloodstream and have systemic effects. For this reason, hip resurfacing is now performed less frequently than in the past. Now, you guys know this. You're biting your.
I don't like any of this.
I'm giving out of my best Max Kellerman face.
Okay, so.
Okay.
You're an NHL player.
Hip resurface.
And you're under contract. NHL player under contract for a long time for a lot of money. But you already know that this season, because of your hip surgery, you are for sure out.
What do you mean out?
Well, you just had the hip resurfacing surgery.
Oh, you just had it.
So you just had it.
Yes.
But you're under contract with a lot of money for a long time. Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know from what I told you about the risks and just the damage your body takes, do you ever set foot on an NHL rink again?
Well,
yes.
So wait, I'm guaranteed the money?
You're guaranteed, yeah.
Am I an NHL player?
No.
Then
yes, you are.
Dude, part of your description, part of your description of what you just said is that I'm probably not going to walk properly ever again.
Yes.
It sounds an awful lot like one of my legs is shorter than the other.
More normal walking pattern.
Oh my God.
Now they can make your skate, they can pad your skate, they can make it bigger on one side or whatever to fix that if you want.
Or I can not play because I have the hips of an 83-year-old man.
Right. Which is why it's very interesting that Ryan Kesler, who just had this surgery done not a few weeks ago.
Oh, so he's done.
May 9th, actually, not a few days ago in New York, has said that the surgery has left the door open to resume his NHL career, but he will not be able to play in 2019-2020. Now,
so he's going to miss the whole season?
Remember last year we had this conversation. Elliot and Jeff were talking about it on 31 Thoughts, and they weren't even sure he could skate, and he played last year.
Can you look up his cap, his contract? Oh my God.
So Anaheim is officially out of cap hell because $6.7 million for the next 5 years is now going LTIR.
Yeah, that is wow. Wow. Well, and they're in trouble, though, because the Leafs can,
they can do
funsies, just pay Nathan Horton that money. The Ducks, I've been given the impression, are not
that team
in a position to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And they've got Kesler on LTIR, Corey Perry being the ghost of Corey Perry.
Yeah, he's done, too. He makes, what is it, 8.25?
Yeah.
8.625.
8.625 for Corey Perry.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Now, that Kesler deal was a bad deal when it was signed.
Yes.
If he was even fully healthy, still was a terrible, terrible deal. And I don't know why they did it. We talked about it at the time. Injury aside, you go, this player's declining.
See, he's an interesting one because we had the conversation of 82-game players versus 16-game players.
He's a 16-game player.
No, he's not. He's an 8-game player. Because always happened with Kesler, and to a lesser extent, Sean Avery used to be this guy too, the second the playoffs start, if you faced him in the first round, sucks to be you. He'd be unreal. The Vancouver series against Nashville, second round, 2011, he basically willed the team single-handedly to a win, and then he was just busted. Mm-hmm. Busted the whole rest of the time. Sean Avery, a few times, gave it his all in the first round and couldn't even throw a check in the second round.
Yeah.
Because he just put his whole being into it. Wow. So he might be done.
I think he's done. I was surprised he played this year. Remember last year he was wasn't he on Twitter beaking at Ryan Johansson?
Yes.
And Ryan Johansson's like, can you walk? You're going to come after me? Can you walk? It's after hearing that, think about what I said to you about the top of the femur snapping.
Oh.
Right? That's a real possibility at some point in your life, and that's from a normal person's perspective of just walking.
And
You're going to put
femur,
that through an NHL season?
Your
No, you're
femur
not.
is your biggest bone, and I believe it takes, 8 months to properly heal?
Mm-hmm.
So, dude, no, he's got to be done.
So I
Holy
wonder.
shit, a hip resurfacing.
Now, Anaheim is going to, they said they're supporting him in every medical aspect and whatever. No doubt he'll be in for rehab and whatever. I wonder if that's a contract that moves. Like, I wonder.
Is he going to be a Coyote?
I wonder if he'll be, Coyote or whoever else would do it. I don't know who else would do it at this point. I think Arizona's the team that's sort of doing that. But Arizona does it when you don't have to pay for it, right? Like, it depends on how bonus-laden is his structure, Jesse. Like, how much of that contract's been paid already? Because that's the important part. For him to move, the team acquiring him wouldn't want to have to pay it. Does that make sense? Yeah. How much? Like, do you have his contract up on Cap Friendly?
Yeah, there's zero bonus.
See that? Now they're screwed.
Yeah.
Because if you bonus it the way that Matthews' contract set up or Tavares' contract was set up or whatever, unless you are a rich team, when you acquire a contract like that, you don't actually want to have to pay for it. Like the Datsuk trade. When Datsuk was traded to Arizona, they didn't pay a penny, but it still counted against the cap. Does that make sense?
So
Arizona's not going to pay.
Are your wheels turning at him? Oh, there it is. There's the coy Adam Wild smile.
Are you up in the Leafs ticket?
I don't. I'd have to look at that because I don't know because Nathan Horton is obviously still there for one more year.
Yeah,
but. So, and I think it was James Myrtle that wrote today that the Leafs, up until the first day of the season, can have $99.7 million under contract because you're allowed to hover about 10% over, and with LTIR overages, they can have almost $100 million under contract. So nobody's going to come in and offer sheet them. There's no way with Mitch Marner. Like so you can throw that one out because it's not going to happen. It might, but like
that's another conversation.
Yeah, or they will never not be in a position of power. They either let him go and get their 4 first-round picks, or they match it.
Right.
Sure.
We're
talking about Kesler.
Right, but with Kesler, I wonder if a contract like that makes sense to a team like the Leafs or like the Rangers.
I was about to say Rangers.
Where you can deal some bad money, or even Tampa Bay, because you are moving. Say you can move like a Ryan Callahan.
Interesting.
And then you LTIR the guy. Now, anybody who goes into bonuses, if you have any rookie bonuses on the Tampa Bay Lightning, that's when you run into trouble. Like the Leafs had a couple years where they were over the cap, and then it gets eaten off the cap the next year.
See, the Leafs also had rookies with rookie bonuses, though,
right?
Which Tampa, I don't think really had. Maybe Sergachev, but like Braden Point was on this like garbage rookie contract. Like he wasn't getting Matthews bonuses.
No, he wasn't on Schedule A.
He wasn't making $3-4 million. I think he was just making less than $1 million. You know, so boy, that is interesting.
Because if you're because usually we talk about basement teams taking those contracts on.
Sure.
They can't pay that. That's why they're basement teams. I wonder if a big market team goes, we're right up against the cap, and we need to somewhat have something to spend over. Do you move bad money for a player? Like if you move Zaitsev,
well,
that gives them a defenseman. It gets him off your books in the ULTIR.
Or
Kesler.
even Horton, because if that's even a thing you can do, I don't know. Because Kesler costs more.
Well, you do Horton and Zaitsev or something like that.
I don't know. Well, now the Ducks are taking on more, so what's the point? So
right.
It's but there's something there, and the Leafs don't have a first, and the Ducks I know have at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have their own, and whatever first rounder Buffalo gave them for Brandon Montour.
Mm-hmm.
It's either St. Louis or San Jose's.
Right.
Depending on who's the lower pick.
Which is interesting because I think it depends on who wins the series.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because like the Leafs are supposed to have like a lot of Marlies in the lineup next year, and that's just going to be the way it is.
Sounds like it.
So I've got a theory about that. So let me come at you with that in a second. There are going to be a lot of people that respond to this when they listen to the show, and they say, well, okay, Burrco, Liljegren, Sandin, all these guys who are supposed to step in, they're all going to have those bonuses. And yes, you're right, but I don't think those guys are at the skill level where they're necessarily going to make them in the first year. They're not Matthews, Nylander, Marner. They're not.
No, and again, like I don't think any of those guys have any Schedule A. They'll be lucky if they have Schedule B, and they'll be lucky to hit them.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I don't think any of those guys are hitting 20 goals, or I don't know what the bonuses would be for defensemen. I assume it'd be different.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like they're not playing the big minutes. Like the part of the reason the Leafs hit it and over again is they were key parts of the team right away. These guys are going to come in and be like depth roles,
right,
as well.
Right. Yeah. I just wonder if that's one way for the Leafs to get out of this contract situation they're in with Zaitsev without giving up a draft pick. Now,
interesting.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I was kind of looking at James Myrtle put out on The Athletic 4 different scenarios that the Leafs could manage, I guess, this summer. It's an interesting read. I think you should go through it because, again, it sort of dispels the thing that the Leafs are in serious trouble. They're probably going to have to make a move or 2 or 3. And Chris Johnson said it right best. They have the appetite to make some big waves. So expect some big splashes. However, they could stay somewhat status quo, let the free agents walk and trade Connor Brown, and they're pretty much there. Like, really, that's what it, and like, assuming Mitch Marner's in the $9.5 to $10 million range. Now,
so that's like assuming you give her a Gardner.
Gardner, Hainsey, and Ennis are all gone in this scenario. They just walk.
Okay.
But
I'm not convinced Ennis is gone. But anyways,
I'm not either. But when you look at what the Leafs lineup may look like next year, there's going to be a lot of Marlies. And I wonder if this is the one way you could get Mike Babcock to shorten the bench. Because, we talk about...
You give him worse players?
You give him no, not worse players. Players he doesn't trust.
Well, no. Because players he doesn't trust, Babcock makes their life very difficult. The problem I had with Babcock wasn't necessarily his use of guys during the regular season.
No, that was fine.
There were certain games where I'm like, Jesus, Matthews didn't even hit 17 minutes. And there were a bunch of those. But they still won a lot more games than they lost. And you said last night, Jesse, on Twitter, I don't want to hear anyone question load management ever again. Mm-hmm. I think it makes a decent amount of sense during the regular season.
But Kawhi played all 48 minutes last night.
The anxiety,
my next thing was, how many minutes did Kawhi play last night?
The anxiety was, is he going to keep doing it in the playoffs? And for a few games, the answer was not quite. I mean, he didn't really ever let Tavares and Matthews fly, but they played more. And then Game 7, like the one that matters the most, I was just like, oh my God, you stubborn goat. Like, you donkey. Like, I just couldn't believe how he managed the bench in Game 7. So that it was one game, and it was the biggest game, and I thought it was terrible. But by and large, the playoffs were better than the regular season. I don't know. I see where you're going, Adam. I don't think. What is that? Cutting off your nose to spite your face?
Give him no options.
Yeah.
No.
These are your options.
It's
just so absurd to think about it.
Yes. It's to give him worse players.
Listen, they're not necessarily worse. They're just players he doesn't know yet.
But both things are absurd. It's like not playing Matthews.
That's absurd.
40 minutes in Game 7
absurd.
Is ridiculous. 7 guys played for the Raptors last night. 5 guys can fit on a court and 7 guys play. That's it.
Wow.
Tavares
it's Game 7. Who cares? There's no tomorrow. Play Matthews.
Exactly. Tavares and Matthews should have played 25 minutes each.
So it's ridiculous that you're forced to come up with scenarios that you have to trick the coach into playing players in the moment where he should play players.
But if you saw or if you read a Moneyball, that's exactly what Billy Beane does. He trades Rookie of the Year candidate so they can play, what is it, not Shea Hillenbrand? Or no, what's his name?
I don't know.
No, Scott Hatterberg.
Okay.
Like, shitty Scott Hatterberg. They're like, please play Scott Hatterberg. They're like, no, I'm going to play this guy who's amazing. Oh, cool. We'll trade him. And they did. And so they would trade. So they play Scott fucking Hatterberg, who was a catcher.
First base isn't hard. Here, tell him. It's incredibly hard. Oh, God.
Anyway.
I see what you're saying, and I think they might do something along those lines. I just don't think it'll be for the reasons that you're laying out. Because they're bad. They're going to play them because Babcock doesn't trust them.
We're going to be talking about this until Game 83, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is
all
way.
next year.
It's been, 3 weeks now? We're still on
It would be nice if the Leafs just came out and said, okay, we're fucking done with that, and then we could let it go. But they never do.
Can I just be honest about my feelings? Like, from the past couple shows.
Sure.
I think a lot of people have noticed that something's off. Mm-hmm. I've been looking forward to the next year. How is the next year going to go? Mm-hmm. And I've had a few people go like, okay, yeah, the season's done. Can you make some Leaf videos, please? And I'm like, about what? About what? Because all the topics are based on stress right now. Marner's contract. How's that going to... All the people who are injured. And the cap. And I just feel like no one in Leafs Nation is in the mood to have a positive conversation right now. And
doesn't help that everybody on TV is negative.
And was all
does
year.
not help.
But it's not just that I feel like the mood is like that right now. I feel like it's going to be like that in June and July and August and September and October, no matter what their record is, November, no matter what their record is, all the way through until the first round of the playoffs, until they win that series. And if they don't, it's going to be what we just went through, but worse. Everyone's getting
And last year we were like, at least we won't have to go through that again. We got Tavares.
Yep.
It's funny because this offseason there's going to be no Tavares celebration. Like, it's just going to be
unless you can somehow move Zaitsev and Marlowe.
Which, yeah.
I don't give a shit what they're able to move or bring in. And that's the problem. Yeah. I don't think anyone is going to care what the team looks like. We looked at this team and we went, oh my God, look at that two-headed monster. And their numbers were all great. Wasn't Matthews' fault they lost.
We never saw that team at full strength either. We didn't get a full season of William Nylander. Matthews was hurt.
That's Dubas' fault. He failed.
Yeah.
Well, everyone said, no. And then there's that lingering, he sort of. Okay, you know what pissed me off? The biggest takeaway I had from the CJ episode? When he said Nylander could have had that contract at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that's shitty. Yeah. That's shitty.
It's the same
that
deal
was a
that's
mistake.
on the table in September.
I wasn't convinced it was a failure from Dubas until he said that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so what the fuck then?
Yeah.
Like, what did we do all that for?
Well, and when we were talking about it,
it didn't work.
When we did our 2 sports radio shows in our entire career,
yes.
One of the things we talked about was we talked to CJ and we talked to Eric Engels in those shows, but CJ had alluded to the fact that the Leafs hadn't even offered him $6 million a year. It's like,
and what's the illusion? He was never going to get less than
and
6.
I didn't understand that, and I still don't get that, and I wonder.
And I hope that's negotiation.
I hope one day, because it won't be us. I wish it would be, because Elliot and Jeff seem to be the only people who are allowed to get actual NHL people on their podcast.
I've asked guys.
I know, it's crazy. I would love to understand what the negotiation tactic was there. What is the reason you do that? And it doesn't actually have to be from Kyle Dubas. Like Mike Gillis is talking to everybody. We should book him. I'd love to know. I would love to know, or even Brian Burke. I'd love to have him on.
Burke would be great.
Love to talk to him about. So what is when you go into I know what Brian Burke's opinion is on the Leafs. If we had him here, what I would want to know is talk to me about what GMs do all day. Right?
Yes.
What the hell are you guys doing all day? How can a negotiation go on for 5 months, Brian? How does that work?
How much of it is just boring? Are you paying attention to hot dog prices like in a video game?
Are you guys on a YouTube loop? Like, what are you doing? Are you on Tumblr?
I mean, you can fall down that loop. Right now. I'm watching a cinematic of all. It's all the GTA 5 cinematics put together. It's 7 hours long. Yeah, it's a movie.
GTA?
It's very long.
Why should play the game?
Yeah, I could do that, but I can't play the game while I'm emptying the dishwasher and gotta do this and that.
Fair. That's a fair point.
I'm just a regular 14-year-old, Jesse. I don't play video games anymore. I just watch them.
You just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah, like me and all the other kids. You know what? I'm going to be in high school next year, and you're not going to be able to boss me around. You leave me alone.
I said that I can't believe the negotiation could take 5 months, and I just realized mine took 7. Actually,
and what did
7
you do
or 8.
All day? Froze your
fucking
jeans.
Stressed, man.
Yeah, it was
stressed.
awful.
It was last year was rough.
Did you feel like you could concentrate on being you?
No,
I wonder
absolutely
why William Nylander was bad. You know what I mean?
Or why Mitch Marner might have been a little bad after the Matthews contract was signed. Dude, I don't know what people are playing at that they think that anybody can compartmentalize their future like that. I'll tell you, there was a time last year where my future was legitimately up in the air. Legitimately, I've worked my whole life for get to a point, and I was going to lose everything.
It was really helpful that all your friends were like, "So what are you doing?"
and
so what's up?
And I did take a step back, but there was also some other stuff that one day when I get to write a book, I'll talk about.
Yeah, it won't be good.
And
It won't be as good as mine.
what's interesting is that, like, when I hear that Mitch Marner's like, oh, he's not even thinking about it. Yes, he fucking is.
Yes, he is.
Every minute of every day, it dominates you. I don't care if you're talking about $10 million a season. You wouldn't think about that. Bullshit.
They're really good at, that camp has painted itself exactly the way it wants to be portrayed.
Yep.
He's a superstar. He deserves more than Matthews. Marner's the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not thinking about it at all. Look at him. He's doing these cute commercials. He's doing the cute Apple commercial, and he's yucking it up with Matthews, who he deserves to make more money than. And see, these guys are friends. They're friends. Like
Until his agent takes a big dump on the Matthews contract.
Which, that's so ridiculous. Yeah, but it's his agent. His agent's the bad guy.
Right.
Marner's the good guy.
So is mine, apparently.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I'm not saying Marner's not the good guy. I'm just saying they're doing a good job, I guess, portraying themselves as what they want to be portrayed as. I saw this one article that was complimenting them. It was they said it was mastery of negotiating through the media. I don't believe
Mitch Marner's camp?
I know.
You're fucking nuts, right?
I know. I don't believe that at all because it's so completely
So
transparent.
who wrote it?
But I don't remember. I want to say it was on the LeafsNation.com. But it's so transparent to us, and I feel like most people who listen.
They must have been
But
joking.
I feel like most Leaf fans are not people who listen to the show. Does that make sense?
No, I think LeafsNation.com guys were probably being sarcastic too.
Well, I
They could
did
not
not read it.
Yeah,
I saw the headline and went, oof.
That's
no.
them. That's them making fun of. That's them making fun of Marner's agent for
Could be.
sure. There's
Could be.
no way.
It'd be ironic if that's what it was.
No, because listen, when you look at what. If you're a Toronto sports fan, you look at what Batista did a couple years ago. He comes back, they get their first playoffs in 23 years, and he's like, I'm not taking any discounts, and he just gets progressively worse, which was a shitty idea. And then Stroman comes back, and he's like, nobody loves Toronto like me, nobody does it for Canada like me, and they're so going to bounce his ass out of town. Do not negotiate through the media.
God.
It doesn't work.
Again,
it doesn't work.
Again, a couple days ago, just putting on a big show for the camera. I'm just like, oh my God.
I didn't hate when Sid Sixero was like, hey, I won't hate it when Marcus Stroman gets traded this year.
Like, dude, me neither. And he's got to be their
Marcus
best pitcher,
Stroman,
right?
but he's got to go.
He's got to be their best pitcher.
Yeah, it's time though.
There are a lot of fans who are big fans of Marcus Stroman, though.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
to quote
that's the
Jeff
only
Blair,
thing.
if he wasn't such a narcissist, which is something he said when we filled on his show.
Really good, Jeff Blair.
That's what he said. I couldn't believe it. I was like, first off, Jeff Blair is talking to me, but that's only because I'm on his show. And second, he called Stroman a narcissist straight out. And you know what? Marcus Stroman is a bit of a narcissist. You can see it. And you have to be to play at that level. You have to be to stand out on a mound in front of 50,000 people and throw a baseball.
Especially when you're so small.
Well, you know, had a clothing brand.
You know, height really is an effect in baseball. It affects things.
It doesn't measure, though.
Height doesn't measure heart, though. That's how it goes.
You know, if you were a basketball player, that would have a little bit... Like, if Muggsy Bogues came out with that, I'd be like, okay. True.
Height measures heart in a way. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Height... the shorter you are, the better, the more heart. The better, the more heart, yep.
And I got to tell you, Marcus Stroman, big fan, especially what he did in the playoffs for the
a good
Jays.
pitcher.
He's a hell of a
He's
pitcher.
a good pitcher.
Great pitcher.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes you get the point that like, I think that they need to move on just because it's not a good mix anymore.
Well, and now it's also getting to the point where he's like, I want to be here. And I'm looking around at the Blue Jays and going, why?
I don't think
Now I'm suspicious.
I think he just
Why
wants
do
to
you
make his
still wanna
money.
be
They're
here?
so bad.
So
They're
It's
holy
like,
shit.
It's not fun bad.
Why-
They were
no.
500 like a couple weeks ago, and I was like,
Oh, God. No.
I thought they were going to
have
be
they won a game since?
like the Leafs were fun bad, right? Because it was like who
When
like,
they were in last place?
Yeah, it was like that. What I liked about that season is for us there was no pressure. It was like, hey, we can just talk about what's going on in the NHL. Yeah, the Leafs suck, but of course everybody knows. And there was no there was no anxiety.
I think being a bad baseball team is so much more stressful because
You may never be good again.
Yeah, even if you tank, it's like, all right, you might get the first overall pick, and he might make your team in 4 years if you're extraordinarily lucky. Probably 6. And okay, so good luck for the next half decade plus. Like, if you suck at baseball, you are screwed. Unless you really just pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Well,
The Jays got 2 wins in their last 12
oh
games.
god.
Oh, fuck.
And 12 games in baseball is like 13 days. So it's not
So
fun.
loss, and win, and loss, and loss.
It's like Wednesday through next Wednesday, you're losing.
You know when I knew they were in trouble? When they lowered beer prices. I'm like, no one's lowering any price. And you're lowering beer?
Now,
Boy, are they going to suck.
before we go to the press conference, I would just like to quickly, mention this headline from Gizmodo.
Okay.
Theater accidentally shows mother drowning her child at Detective Pikachu screening.
What?
I just saw this pop up and I had to read it. The Curse of La Lorna is based on. That's part of the. It's a movie, by the way. It's a movie clip.
I was hoping so.
Yeah, come on, guys. Of course, Curse of La Lorna, which is part of that whole like Annabelle series or whatever, is based on the Mexican legend about a ghost of a mother who drowned her children and now wanders the earth snatching up lost kids. Much like Pokemon, you could say she's got to catch them all. So perhaps it was fitting that at a Montreal theater accidentally played the R-rated horror film instead of Pokemon's Detective Pikachu on Thursday, leaving families fleeing and children in tears.
Was the audience in Thundershock? Oh, that's terrible. Oh.
I guess they kick off the movie with the child drowning scene.
Oh, I was about to say, wait a sec. Were the parents just sitting there like...
No, I think it's the start.
Like half an hour into the movie, like, this doesn't seem like Detective Pikachu. Then all of a sudden, oh my god.
So a guy live tweeted it, and he said, the theater I'm in is playing a trailer for Annabelle Comes Home before Detective Pikachu, look away children, oh no. And the kids are crying. Now the Joker trailer's playing, and now it's Chucky. So I guess it's just the trailer.
Oh, it's just the trailer?
But they played that before Detective Pikachu.
Oh...
I find that hilarious.
Oh, God.
I find that hilarious because I used to be so afraid of every movie. Like when I went and saw the Ninja Turtles, when the 91 version, so I'd have been 3, I ran out of the theater screaming and crying. Like, so now the idea of it is just really funny. Because it's
because
I did it, right?
Well, you need to be scared by a movie you're not supposed to be scared by. And for
Jurassic
me,
Park 2.
Jumanji.
Jumanji.
Jumanji
Really?
was scary when you were a kid, yeah.
Dude, it was fucking dark, man. That's a dark movie.
Well, and all these animals come thundering through the house. You're like, what the...
And it was filmed really well.
Yeah.
Like, it was a scary film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
also, they show Latin Lovers before High School Musical on the Disney Channel.
Do they?
No. It's a joke.
I believe that.
You know what's great is no one listening right now knows what we're talking about.
What do you mean? Latin
They've
Lovers?
Never heard of that.
Oh,
show.
no.
I never saw Latin Lovers.
None of
I
them.
also never saw Red Shoe Diaries.
I was about to say.
Or Baby Blue
David
Movies.
Duchovny, the guy from the X-Files, for sure.
Wait, are there local singles in my area waiting to be called on the telephone?
It's only $10 a minute.
It's only $10.
Can you imagine how much money that they would rake in doing that?
Yeah.
It's
it probably
stupid.
worked. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, that's scary. I feel bad though. That's like, yeah, there's a lot of issues with that.
A lot of
Imagine you're the person that owns that company and you go on a date, and they ask you, okay, so like I'm an accountant, and what do you do for a living? And you're like, I run a phone sex hotline, but we don't really put it that way. It's not really phone sex. It's local singles in your area. And if it goes that way,
They just want to
so
talk.
you're taking advantage of lonely people.
You want to just have a casual chat with someone? Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was just at this movie and they accidentally showed the trailer for some
Curse
mother
of La
drowning
Lorna.
her kid instead of Detective Pikachu. Oh, my God, man.
I genuinely hope that happens to us at least once when I'm a parent, because that would be absolutely hysterical, and I would love every second of it.
I saw one of the Saw movies in theaters,
Ooh.
and there were like
That's fun.
9 and 10-year-olds running around the theater behind me, and now those kids just rule every comment section they're a part of.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Like, what do those kids grow up to be, you think? Definitely, like, you.
I'm not taking my kids to see Saw. No, like I think you go to
How
see
did they
that.
get in?
You let them go to see that like with their friends around like 13 or 14, when it's like cool. Like, oh, we're gonna go see a scary movie and hold hands.
I saw, it was like, I don't know, the Pokemon movie or something. I was only in grade like 4 or 5, something like that. And my friend's mom, who I guess didn't really care that much, as soon as the movie ended, she snuck us into the end of There's Something About Mary.
Oh.
And we obviously don't know what's going on at all, but they said fuck a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And we laughed till, like, I thought I was going to go into kidney failure. Because, I just couldn't believe it. So imagine sitting through Saw, start to finish, and you're a grade 3 student.
It's funny. It's funny that was it that long ago? You were those kids.
I was a grown-up seeing a grown-up movie, and they were children watching Saw.
I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons until I was in grade 3, and it was only because we watched the Valentine's episode where Lisa writes Ralph the Card, I choose you, and he eats the crayon, that my stepmom and I were watching it together. And she started laughing because he's like, Miss Hoover, I don't have a crayon, I ate it. And she started laughing at that thing, and she's like, okay, I guess you can watch The Simpsons.
Because they would say damn. They would say damn. And remember Homer choking Bart was considered violent?
Oh, yeah.
You can't do that. He chokes his kid? What? That's terrible. Like that. If The Simpsons started today, they'd get canceled after one episode.
Do you remember the movie? Do you remember the show Wishbone? Did you ever see the little dog? What's the story? Wishbone. Yeah, where he's in the books. There's one scene, and I think it's Red Badge of Courage or something like that, where he's literally a Union soldier in the Civil War shooting a musket. They got this little Jack Russell lined up. I'm like, could you do that today? The 90s were wild, man.
I need to see this right away.
Yeah, it's out there. You'll have to look it up on YouTube. Anyway,
Wishbone?
Yeah, let's do the press conference though.
The Presser. The Steve Dangle Press Conference.
This is a fun question from Ed Rosen Bruins.
Okay.
He wanted to know, if current teams still in the playoffs were allowed to select 2 players from teams they've eliminated.
Whoa.
Who would be the best team now? And what would they look like? So basically, who should they take?
Boston.
So the team you knocked out, you can pick 2 guys from those teams.
So this is real interesting. Okay, so
it's kind of fun.
The Sharks would take Mark Stone from Vegas, and Colorado. Oh, and Nathan McKinnon. Mm-hmm. So imagine adding Mark Stone and Nathan McKinnon to that line.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I still think Boston, because I feel like they'd take Seth Jones and Austin Matthews.
You wouldn't just take. You wouldn't take 2 Leafs.
Well,
you wouldn't take Riley. And
I probably would, but I think that Boston needs more help on the back end. I think they need more mobility.
You could take Seth Jones and
Zach Werenski. They haven't any.
I was going to say Seth Jones and Morgan Riley.
Yeah, dude. Yo, talk about a super team.
What about Carolina?
Wow,
who's Carolina taking?
So they got Ovechkin.
And nobody from the Islanders.
Popey.
Yeah.
Or Leonard.
They need a goalie.
Or Leonard, yeah.
Yeah, you got to take one goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe they're in the Final Four with those 2.
It's unbelievable. Did we do St. Louis?
No, we did not. No. So in the first round, they...
Dallas? No,
Dallas was second round. First round? Who did St. Louis have? Oh, the Jets.
So you can take...
Scheifele, probably?
Scheifele and probably Sagan, wouldn't you? Or Ben? Who do you take, Sagan or Ben?
Or you could get a guy like Klingberg...
Bufflin.
Heiskanen, Bufflin.
Bufflin's a playoff.
Bufflin would be cool, yeah.
Bufflin is just violent. Like, I don't know if he's a playoff
That's what you need in the playoffs.
I would go with Scheifele just because I think they need more help up front.
Yeah.
He's an unreal player, too. He had an underrated season. Yeah, probably Scheifele.
Kyle Connor.
And, yeah. For sure, that's the one. Let's go with him.
Par Lindholm.
Yeah.
Imagine. So this is a real thing. They go up to the podium. They're like, we're going to take Par Lindholm.
What?
If it's Marc Bergevin, I don't put it past him. Well, we need some good depth. If there's anything Marc Bergevin needs 20 Dwight Kings. That's what he needs.
From Colorado, we select Sven Andrighetto. we got him back.
Yeah.
We got him back.
We're going to the Cup.
Woo! That's a really great question, though.
Yeah,
honestly, fun. I've been playing with this for a while, but I really feel like there's a couple other segments that eventually we want to start shooting with the show, and some of these questions are better than the questions that they come up with for First Take and Undisputed. Really, It's so funny how in this segment, you who listen to the show produce this part of the show.
Yes.
And it's often the best segment on the show.
You absorb the strength of the fallen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Your team is the Sword of Gryffindor. Yeah, so who wins out of that? Dude, I'm sorry. Am I alone in thinking that the Sharks win that hands down?
Are you
Boston
alone in that?
gets
No.
pretty good.
Mark Stone, Nathan McKinnon. Come on. Mark Stone was the best player.
Matthew Seth Jones.
I like Matthew Seth Jones. Nathan McKinnon was so unbelievably good, though.
And so is Mark Stone. It's just
Yeah.
his team lost.
Yeah.
He had like 10 points in 7.
He had 12 points, I think. 6 goals in 7 games.
Goofy.
Yeah.
Goofy.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's
Who knew
tough.
Mark Stone's a good player?
Who knew? Who knew? Someone should trade for him
But
and sign that guy.
it's a good thing that the NHL's got this hard salary cap in place so we can keep stars separated from each other. I really like that. Don't you guys? Isn't that your favorite? It's my favorite.
Would you rather
I
have
love
Mark Stone or Mitch Marner?
Mitch Marner. I'd say Mitch Marner.
Interesting.
And the reason
I asked that to make a point.
little Toronto bias, but why?
Well, I was going to say there's no way Mitch Marner makes more than Mark Stone. Or there's no way you could say
Nikita
he's
Kucherov
better.
or Mitch Marner?
Kucherov.
Yeah, and who's going to make more? Mitch Marner.
Probably Mitch Marner. Well, it all comes back to Mitch Marner, doesn't it?
Well, I would just say that I think that on that team, Mitch Marner would just give them the creativity. Like, not that Mark Stone's not an unbelievable creative whatever player. I think Mitch Marner would be a great fit there.
But it's the conversation is starting to, like, I feel like we were saying 10 and 11 for so long, and I guess their camp was saying 10 and 11 for so long, that now, like, yeah, I really am thinking, like, wait, pump the brakes. Goal scorers get that money. He's not really... He's not an elite goal scorer.
No.
He can put up 20, 25.
Sure.
Might even have a couple seasons at 30, but like that's where he sort of caps out. And he's not a center. So out of all the players that we just mentioned, Mitch Marner's going to make the most? He's going to make the most
Well, Mitch
McKinnon, Stone...
Mitch Marner's agent, yes.
Yes. He's going to make more than Seth Jones?
No.
He's going to make more than...
Well, I mean, you can't use
you
Nathan
go down
McKinnon
the-
as a comparable because that contract is a
Right.
outlier. I think you got to... But Mark Stone just signed his, and I think you can use that.
As a UFA...
Yes.
With leverage.
Yeah.
Marner's an RFA, where he's supposed to have less leverage, and he's going to make $2 million a year more
I don't think so.
than Mark Stone. I don't.
I think we'll be surprised.
And
you know-
I think we're going to as well.
And as our friend Chris Johnston pointed out, they will show them the graphs, and they will say, this is what we can pay you, and that will be it. And so it will be very interesting because they may try to push Kyle Dubas on this, and I have a feeling that Kyle Dubas is I'm not fucking around mode, and if it means that they got to move on from Mitch Marner, they may just do it. I'm not.
He really needs to go volcanic this summer.
Yeah,
I can't
actually
go through
think
another year of this.
I actually think that there is a real possibility. The more I think about it, that Mitch Marner does not end up as a Leaf next year. And
I don't.
I honestly, I do.
There's a
because
scenario.
I think there's a very likely
logical
scenario.
conclusion where Mitch Marner's not a Leaf.
If they sign him to anything, because they just announced, I think it's $10.6 million that will get you 4 first-round picks if you RFA a guy. Like if you sign an RFA, it's 4 first-round picks at 10.6. If you sign Mitch at 10, pretty good. You sign him, and if you get anywhere over like $10.5 million with Mitch Marner, you're talking, at least for the Leafs, this doesn't make sense territory.
No.
It should be a fun summer.
Ooh.
But in the meantime, let's watch some basketball.
Yeah. All right.
And also the Final Four.
Any other questions, Jess?
Now,
Okay, we're done. We love you. We don't know when we'll be back, but it'll be sometime this week. Go Raptors. Even if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, go Raptors.
let's do Thursday.
Especially.
That's Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right,
We'll
cool.
figure it out.
Hey, we love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.